The wealthiest historical figures are compiled on this list based on published estimates of their net worth and fortunes. This video examines the wealthiest people throughout the three distinct historical eras of classical antiquity, the Middle Ages, and early modern times due to problems resulting from diverse definitions of wealth, how it is measured, historical economic models, as well as other confusing aspects. The richest individual in history cannot be identified as a result. Before we begin exploring the richest person in history, we would like to remind you to subscribe while hitting the bell icon for more interesting content and mind-teasing videos. Did you subscribe? Great! Let's begin. Number 10. William the Conqueror. The first Norman king of England, William I, commonly referred to as William the Conqueror or William the Bastard, ruled from 1066 until his death in 1087. Robert I of Normandy's son William was born in 1028 and succeeded his father as Duke of Normandy when he was just 7 years old. The young William struggled to fight back against political intrigue and efforts to steal his lands and throne until 1047. William wouldn't fully exercise control over Normandy until 1060, gradually eliminating pockets of opposition to his rule. William invaded England in September 1066 to claim the crown he believed Edward had granted him and that Harold had sworn to stand by him. William was given the throne on Christmas Day after Harold was defeated at the Battle of Hastings. William amassed an estate with an estimated worth of $228 billion today by conquering large areas and amassing an enormous personal fortune. Number 9. Osman Ali Khan. The richest man in the world, according to Time magazine's cover hero Mir Osman Ali Khan, was named that year. The Khan was the final Nizam of Hyderabad state in British India from 1911 to 1948. He had his own mint and printed the Hyderabadi rupee as his own currency. Additionally, he was believed to have a private treasury with £100 million in gold and silver bullion as well as an additional £400 million in jewelry. At the time, he was the owner of the Golconda mines, the only source of diamonds in the entire world. The Jacob diamond, with an estimated worth of £50 million, was one of the discoveries made at the mine. It served as a paperweight for Khan. Number 8. Nicholas Romanov. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia ruled the Russian Empire from 1894 until the February Revolution of 1917. He was born in 1868 as Nikolai Alexandrovich into the House of Romanov. At the age of 48, in 1916, his wealth was estimated to be worth up to $881 million or $290 billion today. The Russian Orthodox Church pronounced him, his wife, and his children as martyrs after they were killed in 1918 by the Bolsheviks, making him the wealthiest saint and the wealthiest monarch in history. Under his leadership, Russia suffered a humiliating loss in the Russo-Japanese War, which saw the Battle of Tsushima virtually wipe out the Russian Baltic Fleet. The Great Game between Russia and the United Kingdom came to an end with the Anglo-Russian Entente, which was created to oppose German aspirations to gain power in the Middle East. The mobilization of Russia in August 1914, which launched its participation in World War I and resulted in the deaths of 3.3 million Russians, was sanctioned by Nicholas as head of state. Number 7. John D. Rockefeller. Rockefeller started making investments in the oil sector in 1863, and by 1880, his Standard Oil Corporation was in charge of 90% of the nation's oil production. According to a 1918 federal income tax return and estimates of his overall fortune, Rockefeller was estimated to be worth over $1.5 billion in his New York Times obituary. This amount corresponds to nearly 2% of U.S. economic output that year. According to data gathered by Measuringworth, the U.S. did not keep official records on national income until 1932. In 2019, the same economic share would be worth $341 billion. Number 6. Mansa Musa. This cannot be determined with certainty. But this is what the historical records do state. Mansa Musa, the king of the ancient Mali kingdom that spanned all of West Africa, and should not be confused with modern-day Mali, embarked on a pilgrimage to the two holiest cities of Islam, Mecca and Medina, in 1324. From the banks of the Niger River, he set out on a long trek over the Sahara, heading for the Nile and the Red Sea. Hundreds of slaves and thousands of troops, bringing gold, salt, and other valuables, made up his entourage. He made a detour in Cairo during his journey, when he allegedly invested so much money in the local economy and gold that the price of the metal fell all throughout Egypt, giving him the title of the richest man in history. The world was made aware of the capabilities of a strong West African state and the ambitions of its ambitious ruler thanks to Mansa Musa's remarkable trip. Following the trip, the Mali cities of Timbuktu and Jen developed into important trading centers for slaves, books, and goods obtained from the area's natural resources. These cities also welcomed local intellectuals and thinkers from all over the Islamic world. Number 5. King Solomon. According to the Bible, King Solomon had a fortune that was unmatched by anyone who had ever lived before him. He became the richest person to have ever lived as a result. Solomon the Great ruled for 40 years. He received 25 tons of gold every year. At a price of $2,000 per ounce, 1 ton of gold is worth $64.3 million. Therefore, the total cost of his 40-year rule at 25 tons is $64,300,800,000. This didn't include earnings from business or trade or the yearly tribute that all of the kings and rulers of Arabia gave to him. In Solomon's palace, every cup and domestic item was made of pure gold. According to legend, he was so wealthy that during the time of his rule over Jerusalem, silver was regarded as being of little worth and being as common as rocks. As a result, there was no silver in Solomon's palace. Number 4. Augustus Caesar. The first Roman emperor Augustus Caesar had a private fortune that was equal to a fifth of the whole economy of his empire, in addition to briefly possessing all of Egypt. To put things in perspective, the Roman Empire under Augustus was in charge of about 25 to 30% of global economic activity. He had a varied reign over the enormous empire from 27 BC till his death in 14 AD. Caesar, however, suffered from a string of military setbacks and subpar economic results in his later years. Number 3. Akbar I. Akbar, the most powerful emperor of the Mughal dynasty in India, ruled over an empire that produced nearly 1/4 of the world's economic output. According to the late economic historian Angus Maddison, India's GDP per capita under Akbar was equivalent to Elizabethan England, but with a ruling class whose luxurious lifestyle exceeded that of the European society, according to Fortune's Chris Matthews. Data from economist Branko Milanovic, whose work demonstrates the Mughal dynasty was one of the most successful empires of all time at extracting wealth from the populace, support the claim that India's elite class was wealthier than their counterparts in the West. Number 2. Shensong. The Song dynasty in China, which lasted from 960 to 1279, was one of the most prosperous regimes in history. Between 25% and 30% of the world's economic output was generated by the country at its height, according to Professor Ronald A. Edwards, a Chinese economic historian of the Song dynasty at Tamkang University. The wealth of the empire was derived from its technological advancements as well as its extraordinary competence in tax collection, which, according to Edwards, was hundreds of years ahead of that of European governments. The emperor had extensive authority over the economy throughout the Song dynasty because of the government's strong centralization, the professor added. Number 1. Genghis Khan. Unquestionably, one of history's most effective military commanders was Genghis Khan. He ruled the biggest contiguous empire in history, the Mongol Empire, which at its height spanned from China to Europe. Genghis did not, however, hoard his wealth, according to academics, despite his tremendous power. Instead, the Khan's generosity was a major factor in his power. Sharing the spoils with his troops and other commanders is one of the foundations of his success. Unlike many pre-modern militaries, the Mongols forbade their soldiers from stealing for themselves. Following an invasion, every item seized was listed by administrative clerks and then delivered to the armed forces and their families. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.